All right, what's going on, everybody? I don't even see myself on the screen, so I don't know if this is working or not. Hold on. Mute. Is my camera working? I don't know if this is working or not. Let me take a look here. This is the first one, so looks like there's two people in the stream and view channel. Let's see what's going on. Oh, 3 watt. It is working. Okay. Yeah, I'm not seeing myself in the thing, but I just logged into the channel, and so yeah, I'm just gonna. It's weird, but it'll work. Cool. All right, so yeah, it's like says there's like 3 people in the chat. Nice. I dig sheet. JS running with scissors. What's going on? Be careful with those scissors. Jared Smith on Troll Patrol, he says. So yeah, what's up, everybody? It is kind of weird not seeing myself on seeing any feedback of like what I look like, but you know, whatever. I don't even know if the camera's working or whatever. Maybe I don't know. I'm messing around here. We'll see. But everybody says that it's working, so we'll just go with it. I don't even know what to talk about. It says there's like 3 people in the chat, and that's 3 more people than I thought would be here. So what's up, everybody? Give me something to talk about or whatever you want to do here. I'm free till 8 o'clock or whatever time it is over your neck of the woods 2 hours from now. I'm not doing too much over here. Any flooding in Houston at all? Not really. All that stuff took place over near Austin. I'm not even that familiar with where things are around here. We've been getting a lot of rain in Houston, and like thunderstorms almost every single day. Bad one, like crazy thunderstorms, thunder that shakes the whole house kind of stuff. And except for today. Today I had to go on a bicycle ride today, so it was bright and sunny. 16 miles. I had to go to the bank, had to go run another errand and come back. And it was real sunny and beautiful out today. And but it's been raining a lot. I don't know what's normal and what's not here, but people have told me who live here that it's not normal for it to rain this much. But we have gotten a couple of storms to where here at the new place I'm living, the whole yard was covered in water, and it was starting to rise, and it was probably up above my ankles. It was starting to rise up to street level. And there's some big drainage ditches on the side of the road, and they were overflowed. The street was about to be covered, and I wasn't sure what was going to happen in terms of me having to go to work the next morning, but it calmed down and dried out enough that I didn't really get wet on my ride in to the bakery the following morning. But it definitely had me on an edge a little bit. Like, am I going to ride my bike in a flood, or what's going to happen here? But yeah, people say it's abnormal. I don't know. I mean, this is a tropical climate, so I don't know what's normal and what's not here, but I expect in a hot place like this that we get a lot of thunderstorms when it's hot out. So, but yeah, like I said, I'm going to be a little weird because I can't really tell if this is working or not, but as long as everybody says that it is, we're cool. I'm just going to keep going. I'm going to go over to my channel real quick and just see if the video feed is there. I should have a good internet connection. Oh, it's looking pretty. Yeah, it's looking like it's working. Let's see here. hit the volume, and then I can just I can get a delayed. All right, I can see a delayed video if I go like that and kind of tuck it off to the side or someplace where I don't. All right, I can kind of see what's going on if I do that. That's cool. All right. So, is that working? All right. So, yeah, it's a little, I don't know, something's glitchy with the YouTube Studio app. I feel like it should be showing me a video of myself as I talk. But, oh, wow, JS, $20 in the hopper. That's really awesome. That actually will help push me over the YouTube threshold for the month of July, which has been kind of slow. I've been getting a payout every month for the last few months from YouTube, and yeah, let me give that. Can I give that a thumbs up? There you go. Get a little heart or something. I don't know, but I don't know the you have to make $100 on YouTube um, before you can get paid. And so I was checking out the pace that I'm at for July, and it was a little bit slow. And I figured, because 4th of July holiday, all that kind of stuff, and just didn't think that I just didn't think I'd go over the limit and that's fine. It's not like, it's just nice to have. It comes in handy. It's like a grocery run. So so that helps a lot. It's awesome. Probably by eating good next month. What else is going on? So yeah, I'm not doing too much. The videos that I keep posting are behind, and I just got my T-Mobile home internet box yesterday. I was reluctant to sign up because of your issues, but my current provider doubled my bill since my initial bill. Yeah, did you have one of those deals where they give you a certain rate for the first year and then they jack it up after that year is over to like double? Before I was arrested, I lived out in the country, out in Amish country, but I had power. But down the horse and buggies went by my house all day long. Some of them, believe it or not, they have secret power lines going into their like basement and stuff, and they have things down there. They got to hide it from their neighbors, but some of them do have power. But the internet company that I had was a monopoly for the area, and you either went with them or nothing. And so in Pittsburgh, you could get Comcast at $50-$60 a month, because they had to compete with Fios from Verizon. They had to compete with a few other companies. And so it would never be more than $60 a month for a decent internet connection. But when I moved out to the country, and it was Armstrong Cable, and they had this monopoly in my area, it was like $120 a month for not even their best internet speeds. They were fast enough for what I needed, but it was crazy expensive. So T-Mobile here is like $50, and since I moved, I've had a good speed. I haven't had the connection drop. I haven't had any issues. I don't know if the video feed is coming through stable on this live chat, but it's been pretty good since I moved. So if I was going to give it like a 1-star review when I was living over in the tool shed, I'd give it like, so far here, I'd give it a 3-star review. And the only reason, the speeds are fine, and it's like $50 a month, even, no taxes or anything, $50 straight on the auto pay. And if you didn't automatically pay, it's like $55 a month. But the only thing that's bad about the T-Mobile, their customer service is terrible. And this happened twice. When I first signed up for it, they had my address as my friend's house where I was living before I moved into the tool shed, even though I set it up with my new address. But I had to use the billing address at his place because the bank transaction wouldn't go through if I used the new address. And it took almost 2 months to get the people that, because you log into their website, they won't let you change your address. Like, come on. And so I went to, you go to Twitter. The best way to reach T-Mobile for any issue is to go to Twitter, and they will private message you back and forth, and it'll be somebody from the United States. It won't be somebody from India. Most of it's 50-50 chance. Took 2 months of banging away on X to get T-Mobile to change the address on my account. And when I moved in here, about a week after I moved in here, I went through that process again. And so it's been about a month and some change. And they finally changed the address on Monday this week. After I got a little bit, I was a troll to them. I would just message them every day with a screenshot saying, hey, because they would tell me every day that they changed my address and it should be good to go. And then I'd log in and see the old address, take a screenshot, go back to X and be like, nope, you guys failed again. But I'll give it a bump because the speed has been good since I moved in here. So I think some of the things that were going on with it, number one, I was right next to Route 45, which is a major interstate, and it's like 12 lanes wide. It's huge. There's cars flying by all the time. So I feel like maybe I was sharing a cell phone tower with all the drivers that are driving up and down that road. And all of these people flying by on the interstate are connecting to the tower on, off, all day long. And so I can imagine that tower gets all jammed up sometimes. And now I'm further away. I'm like, I don't know, I'm 3 miles away from that interstate off in a quiet street. And I'm probably connected to a different tower that's not as unstable and not getting jammed on as harshly as the one that was next to me. Because when the speed was good at my last place, it was good. But then for no reason at all, it would just drop. And it would constantly, it's like 3 times a week, it would go dead. And I'd have to get on the horn with them, and they would be like, oh, did you unplug it and plug it back in and all that nonsense? And it's like, no. When it stops working, it starts working again automatically. Fix your tower or do something. They gave me a free month a couple of times, but then they stopped doing that, even though I was still complaining. The other thing that may have been a factor is the metal roof on the building that I lived in. The metal roof on the building that I lived in, the tool shed, may have been blocking signals, but when it worked, it worked. So I don't know about that. But I did have problems. If I wanted to start up my GPS to go on a bike ride, I would have to do it outside. There were other things I noticed speed-wise on my phone, just different things that made me feel like the building was something was blocking signals because of where I was located. And something about that tool shed was not conducive to radio signals coming in and out. But the thing was in a window, but I don't know. Here I've got windows. I put the modem right in the window, and it's banging. It's got good signal strength. It's got almost full bars. So I haven't been in a hurry to change my internet since I moved in here, but I was thinking when I moved in here, the day I moved in, I was thinking that was going to be like a top priority. And now it's like, it's very low on my list right now, only because things are just working. and there's some other benefits. I picked up a uninterruptible power supply on Facebook Marketplace for $25 today, and I don't know if it has a good battery, but a replacement battery on Amazon's like $25. So for $50, I'll have a UPS to plug my laptop and hard drives into, and based on the amp hour rating of the battery, I might get, if the battery in it is no good, for $50, I'll have a better UPS system than an entry level UPS that would be brand new on Amazon for $60 to $80. So, and that also solves, I needed an extension cord for my living room or bedroom or whatever it is, where the TV is. And so I can solve a couple of problems there. But if I end up getting a better UPS down the road to plug my laptop and hard drives into, this thing should be able to run that T-Mobile modem, the T-Mobile gateway, for like 5 or 6 hours in the event of a power outage. So it's supposed to be able to run with a brand new battery. I should expect 3 hours on my laptop and connected hard drives in the event of a power outage. But if I get another one and then use the one I just got on, for $25, if I take that and plug the T-Mobile router into it, when the power goes out, which we're having all these thunderstorms, this is why I've been thinking about it. If the power goes out, I would get 5 or 6 hours of internet from my hotspot, and I could do other things, charge phones, things like that. And so that's what I did today. I had the woman who I bought it from, she lives right next door, not next door, but like a mile or two from where the bank was that I had to go to today. And so I was like, yeah, I'll do it. See how it goes. Cross a few things off I'll be able to, I have daisy chained power strips, daisy chained from one outlet all the way to my TV. So I'll get 2 power strips back that I can use for something else. I'll get an extension cord that's like 20 feet long or something like that I was going to buy one for $15 for my TV, but now I can just use one that I already have. I won't need to go buy one. And so it all kind of just worked out and this thing randomly showed up on Facebook Marketplace when I was looking at, sometimes I just browse what's within a 5-mile radius of my house just to see what random thing that I might, can I find a deal on something that I need, like kitchen equipment or something like that, so I don't have to pay full price. So that was kind of cool today. Let's see. Yeah, I'm going to place mine in a window. Unfortunately, I'm next to a bluff, so I'm hoping that doesn't interfere. Yeah, I'm going to say that those things are probably going to be hit or miss, the wireless internet from T-Mobile. I think Verizon has their own. AT&T has their own. It's going to have everything to do with how close you are to a tower and all kinds of other things. One thing that you could try out, I'm going to look this up on Amazon because I can't remember what it's called. I was about to buy it when I have my camping truck. Okay, here it is. Look for something called, if you have a weak signal, look for a WeBoost, that's the brand, cell phone signal booster. They make some that you can attach to your vehicle. They have ones that are more meant for like using in your home. They have some that are like with an outdoor antenna you can mount to your house. These things get really good reviews. And so I was going to get one that would, so I had a pickup truck that was like my travel camper vehicle. Oh, thanks. JS, $5. Here's some for the UPS unit. Sweet. Um, so the WeBoost cell phone booster, I've never used one myself, but there have been. I had a pickup truck that was turned into a micro camper. Um, had an ARE camper shell on the back. It had a flat bed with a mattress in the back, and then two 6 foot long drawers, and it was like full of camping gear, and it was like a road trip mobile. But so I could go on these road trips, and the only expenses I ever really had were food and gas. I wouldn't even really pay tolls because I was always taking back roads and whatnot. But there were times where I was trying to get work done. I worked remotely, and there was one time we were all staying at an Airbnb in the middle of the woods in Virginia, and the power and internet went down at this place, and I had to jump on Zoom meetings, and I couldn't do it because my cell phone signal was too weak, and so I could kind of get in, but I couldn't. Nobody could. My camera wouldn't work, and it was kind of like a waste. And so so these cell phone boosters, from what I've been told, if you use one of these, even the crappy ones, if you can get 1 or 2 bars of a signal with your cell phone, this booster will boost it up to 5 bars. And there's been a lot of times where I'd be traveling, and that was like, man, that would come in handy. And there's no subscription fee. There's nothing you have to pay for. It's like having an extra antenna. And the fun thing is that it will boost the cell phone signal of everybody in your group. So if you're driving down the road and you got a few people in your vehicle and you got one of these antennas mounted on your roof, it'll boost all the cell phones in your vehicle, because it basically pretends to be a cell phone tower, and all the phones will latch onto that. And then that thing will reach out to the closest tower. I don't understand how they totally work, but I looked at a lot of reviews about these things when I was thinking about getting one. So that was something I was thinking about when I lived in the tool shed, to see if that would help, but I didn't want to spend money, and I had other things to worry about, so it wasn't. And these things can be pricey. You got to do your homework and try to find a good deal on one. I'm looking at the one right now, Prime Day deal. It's like $400, so they're not cheap, but it's a one-time expense. You're not paying a subscription every month or anything like that. So, and it's probably something that you would buy and it would last a long time. But say, oh wow, we got more people to the party. Dave Gass up in the house. What's up, Dave? Good to see you. Shell, she's here. Yeah, I wasn't expecting this many people to come to the party. I did a horrible job promoting the party. Just from my party days, I know what it's like. If you don't invite anybody to your house party, ain't nobody gonna come. That I know I've talked about throwing a house party at my place back in my early 20s, probably 22s, 23 years old, somewhere around there. We had like 400 to 500 people show up at a house party, and we lived in a neighborhood that was kind of the ghetto, which was right next to a really nice neighborhood called Mount Washington in Pittsburgh. I don't know who anybody is familiar with Pittsburgh. We had people down in the South Side passing out flyers for the party the day of the party. So like we had pretty much everybody we ever knew showed up. People came from multiple states to go to this party, but even after the bars closed down in the South Side, everybody was rolling up to the party. It was crazy. Running with Scissors 1 is from Pittsburgh. What's up? Say hi to the Berg for me. I don't know. I mean, I'm not going to judge Houston by my experience here so far. I love the weather. I love the weather here. I'm down. Like everybody told me I was going to hate it when it gets hot out. It's like 90 something degrees every day. I don't mind. I like it. I like the heat. I guess I'm the old people move to Florida when they retire. Old people don't go from Florida and move to New York when they get old. There's a reason for that. And this is why. I can't take, I mean, winter, Jamestown, New York winter is way different than Pittsburgh winter. I'll tell you that. Um, oh, everything helps, Shell, to this party. I'm kind of, um, everything helps, Shell. I'm glad Adam is doing much better, and his videos have helped me personally. Well, I'm glad. You're going to see me going like this throughout the video. I've got a few fruit flies flying around. I had to take out, I had some, make water with lemon. The lemons must have attracted them on the garbage can. And so now I got to get some of those little traps probably tomorrow. And they're getting on my nerves, but whatever. I live down south. That's what we do. Yeah, I'm doing way better than when I was living in that tiny little shack with no hot water and doing that bicycle ride. Sometimes there was a couple times I did that bicycle ride like 5, 6 times in a week, and then worked all day at a hard labor job, come home. I had the ride down. It was between 18 and 21 miles. Now my ride's like 25 miles each way. But when dealing with that slumlord and the nonsense at that place, along with all the physical exhaustion, was too much. So ever since I've been in this place, it's been every day gets better here. The only problem I've had with this new place since I moved in, some bugs. So, Houston's got bugs. Even my best friend, he lives in like the McMansion neighborhood near the Woodlands, and where all the rich folks lived, and he's got bug issues. I mean, we've sat and watched a mountain of fire ants devour grasshopper one day. We went out and we were mowing the yard, and I was taking the weed whacker around, and I saw a fire ant mound, and I'm like, I wonder what they'll think if I do this. And I'm like on the mound, and they all came pouring out. They weren't too happy about that. And then they found a grasshopper, and we're like, get them. And they swarmed over this grasshopper, and the grasshopper was just like done. And so it was like watching Planet Earth in real life. So he can't even get rid of these things. Like, he's tried all kinds of things. I don't have fire ants here, thank God, because there's places I have to caulk in this. I'm doing it myself. I don't want the landlord doing it because I want it done right. So I got to get some caulk and seal up some cracks in different places where bugs can come in. And so let's see. Jared Smith, I'm planning to visit Pittsburgh next year. Will be my first time other than an unscheduled connector flight during spring break in which it was snowing on the tarmac while I was in Florida clothes. Oh yeah. I've come back from Florida to Pittsburgh wearing my shorts and t-shirts and come back to a blizzard. But I don't know. The cold is kind of, I don't know how, sometimes the cold doesn't bother me. And I can go out in ice cold weather wearing a windbreaker and a t-shirt and be okay. It's riding a bicycle when it's cold outside is a whole different thing. But I would say 45 degrees is my limit. Like, if it's above 45 degrees, I don't feel bad out on the bicycle. But when it's below 45 and then the colder it gets from there, the worse I feel when I'm riding my bike. If it's cold enough for my hands to freeze and my feet to get frozen and numb, the extremities, and then I have to, having to bundle up with multiple layers and cover your ears and all the different things that you have to do. I think the coldest ride I rode this year was probably like 19, 20 degrees, somewhere like that, going back and forth to that bakery. And I just kept having to, every time I would get nipped, I would have to come back and go to Amazon and be like, all right, I got to get booties for my feet. I got to get a little ear. I had an ear band, and that does a good job, but I have to get a better pair of gloves, or like, just got to get some warmer layer. And, but I've got it down. And, but yeah, if you're going to visit Pittsburgh, I mean, we've got the Running with Scissors. He could tell you some stuff, but, the underground, like the coolest things. My favorite restaurant in Pittsburgh is Kassab's, which is in the South Side. Mediterranean joint. It's on like near South 12th Street. KASSABS. You could send me an email sometime. My email is adam@litgood.com. So if you ever want to just say what's up, but I could give you a whole list of fun things to do in Pittsburgh. But that's my favorite restaurant. Definitely check out the sites, Mount Washington, the View. There's a few little, I don't know if you're into the bars or anything like that, but there's a couple of cool little bottle shops and bars up on Mount Washington. Best cheesesteak is Pepe's. Best pizza is a place called Fiore's, and that's south of the city. It's really hard to park. But if you can, you'll have to park on a steep hill on a cobblestone street and just kind of find a spot to probably have to stick your wheels up on the sidewalk and all that. That's a Pittsburgh thing. Best pizza. Oh, I miss it. These are the things I miss about Pittsburgh. If you like pita bread, if you like hummus and all that, stop over at a place called Pita Land. These are the things I miss being down here in Houston. I don't know where to get fresh pita bread that's baked that day. Like you can't beat it. Oh, Neil. Yeah, what's up? We're live. That's why it said it's a live. That's why it's called the live stream. But yeah, we're doing it live. That's all right. I get it. Oh, let's see here. I wish I could join you, but I'm not going back to the joint for smoking one. So unfortunately, let me look. I could tell you exactly how many days I have left. Let's see here. I have it somewhere. Oh, wait, no, it's right here. And it was, let's see, that was yesterday. So 656 days left before I can join you guys. And I probably have to give it a buffer because I'm not doing nothing until they send me some sort of certified, stamped, bona fide letter in the mail that says you're done with this probation nonsense. And I'm not. I mean, after Donald Trump basically said, I don't care about, why are you all talking about Jeffrey Epstein still? Why are people still banging on me about that? That was so long ago. Why does anybody care about that? I'm not counting on Donald to hook me up with an early release or a pardon, but there are other avenues I could take to get that early release. I have to do it myself, pretty much. But the probation officer, he was here when I moved into this place. Whenever you move, they have to come visit you. He was like, he didn't even bring a plastic cup with him. He was in and out in like 5 minutes. He just asked me about how I'm doing with work. And he's like, and he apologized he's like, I'm sorry I had to come over here, but we're required to. And then he said something about being at the bottom of his pile. And I'm like, well, that's a good place to be. You can put me right back at the bottom of that pile and we're good to go. I've been told by people that there were a couple of people that I met in the system in jail that got a violation for failing a weed test. But they failed. One of the guys said he failed 9 times, and then they brought him in and made him go back to jail. Somebody else said they failed 5 times. Another guy who I became sort of friends with, he said that he got violated because, how do I put this? He was in prison in the first place because I guess he was something to do with the mafia, and he kidnapped somebody and had them held up with a shotgun, and like he did a long time for that, and then he was back out on probation, and he had like some PTSD shit, and he like lost his shit in a public place, and they came and arrested him, and they put him back in for, I don't know, it was like another 6. He was about to do another 6 months to a year in prison for violating his probation. But he said that he failed his weed tests on a weekly basis, and he lived in Maine. I don't remember exactly where. But he said in his, wherever he lived in Maine, I don't know if it was Portland, Maine. It was somewhere in the south of Maine, near the coast. I can't remember exactly where. But he said that the judge, he said a probation officer brought him before the judge for failing a weed test, and the judge was like, I don't got time for this shit. Don't be bringing people in here for smoking weed. I got better things to do. And so he was like, all right, got my free pass. And they basically didn't give a crap about it anymore. But the guy in Buffalo, when I got out of prison, weed is legal in New York, totally legal. They got weed stores now. You can just walk in and buy a Mr. Hashy bar, or you can buy it's got like a whole row of big giant jars, and you can just pick whatever you want. And it's like, some of it's like $25 an ounce. And I'm like, I never thought I'd see the day where I could get an ounce of weed for less than a tank of gas. But it happened. An ounce of weed in New York got to be cheaper than an eighth of an ounce of weed in Pittsburgh. And on the Indian reservations there in Salamanca and a couple other places. And so anyway, when I got out of jail, the probation officer in Buffalo, he's like, I can't have you smoking weed. He's like, I know it's legal here, but the federal government says it's not. He's like, I just don't need any, if you don't want any problems, don't do it, blah, blah, blah. He's like, I don't care if anybody around you does it. I don't care if I come to your house and I see a big cloud come out of the door. He kind of said that, and he's like, you can't do it. And so I'm like, all right, but I mean, whatever. Yeah, that's crazy. So Neil says, I got my first felony selling weed to an undercover cop in Pittsburgh, and now I can buy it or grow it legally in Minnesota. You can sell it. You can have it in Pittsburgh now, up to an ounce. You can be driving around with an ounce, and they don't care. Like, they're not allowed to arrest you for it anymore. It's not like in Pennsylvania. This must have been a long time ago if that was a felony. But they were pretty hard ass in Pittsburgh about that stuff. Back when I was younger, going to art school and whatnot, you had to be careful. But then it's been decriminalized. It's not legal, but it's not illegal. Like, it's not legal yet unless you have one of those medical marijuana cards, and that just puts you in a database so that you have to hand in all your guns. But it's not a crime anymore. It's like not even a speeding ticket. If you get caught with it, they'll give it back. Like something like, 1995. That's exactly when that's when I moved to Pittsburgh in 1994, and it was a whole different ball game with the cops down there. That city was those police were out of control. Back then, they were saying that the Pittsburgh police and the New Orleans police departments were the most corrupt police in the entire United States. And the Pittsburgh cops were just killing people every week. They didn't care. There's a lot of famous cases where Pittsburgh cops killed people back in the mid 90s and got away with it. Same here. I was in Oakland in 94, 95. It was the U-Pit Drug Task Force. They were a joke. I'm embarrassed I got caught by them. So yeah, that's why I would never like do that or get like, if I was going to sell weed, it wouldn't be to somebody I didn't know. But yeah, I was during those mid 90s, early 2000s, I was very careful about not doing anything like that out in the open, or just like being very sly and down low. Like, I'm not, some people would just walk down the street and smoke a joint like it was a cigarette. And I'm like, what are you doing? Now you can do that. Now nobody gives a shit. But you could be at a Pirates game and smoke a joint while you're watching baseball game in the stadium, and they won't care. But back in the mid 90s, no, they would not play. Let's see. Hell, I'm looking forward to it. Basically a circle from Boise, Jackson Hole, Yellowstone, Bozeman, Spokane, Pullman, Moscow, back to Boise. So are you in Idaho? Is that where you live? Yeah, I mean, depending on how long you'll be in Pittsburgh, I'm trying to say, like, if you could only do one thing, I don't even know what it would be, to be honest. There's a lot of cool stuff to do in Pittsburgh. I guess it would depend on, if you threw me out like categories of stuff, then I could match the things that there are to do with the categories that I'm given. And I'm pretty, Pittsburgh, Cleveland, Youngstown, Ohio, Erie, Jamestown, Rochester, Buffalo, middle of Pennsylvania, like Altoona, Johnstown, all the way down to Morgantown, West Virginia, and really up and down the East Coast too. But I know I lived in Pittsburgh from 1994 until 2016. And then after 2016 to 2022, I lived an hour north up in Amish territory. And I was in the city all the time. So I really didn't even really feel like I left the city. Wasn't careful enough, but and vouched for them. So yeah, saying that that's kind of crazy that the cops went to that much trouble to catch some. And then you remember, so you were in Oakland. Like, what about the Teleropa, the store that was above whatever the hell it was, across the street there from the O and whatnot? Like, you could just walk in. It was like a whole store, big giant store full of bongs. You could go in there and get whatever, you could go in there and get all the bongs and paraphernalia that you could possibly want. But yet the cops are infiltrating the dangerous marijuana scene. Oh, come on, man. That's crazy. Let's see. Yeah, Jared Smith, you are going to have a great time. Every place you've mentioned is so pretty. I'm happy for you. Yeah, that's a nice road trip. I mean, I couldn't even. The last time I headed out your way, I was going to go on a random drive west, and totally random. I just didn't know. I was just like, I'm going to go west, and I just started driving on back roads. And I was doing like a victory lap because I had just found myself a new job, and some bad things had gone down, and I was over the hump and everything was going well. So I'm like, I'm going to take a victory tour and go on a road trip with my cameras. And I bought a new mountain bike. and I was in St. Louis, and I wanted to go. It was getting close to sunset, so I'm like, I'm gonna hop on this mountain bike and go around the city taking sunset photos. And I went 3 blocks on the mountain bike. First time I ever rode it. Had to adjust the seat height. Got back on the bike. Went across the street and tamped my front wheel into a curb. It was a weird angle. I don't know. I don't even know how to explain it. I was going like 6 miles an hour, and I went up over the handlebars and came down on the sidewalk and broke my arm. And that pretty much put the kibosh on going west. And but I may have been able to make it all the way out there to see Idaho and see the Rockies and whatnot. I was going to Utah specifically to ride on the Slick Rock Trail. But I had all this time on my hands, and so I was going to do some cool Utah mountain bike trails and then whatever. And but then I didn't make it past the Mississippi River, and I had to turn around and come home. I didn't even go home right away. I just drove around with a broken arm for another week or two, and just did things that my arm could handle doing, and just left my bicycles on the back of the Jeep. But let's see, went to the Beehive all the time. Man, the Beehive, the South Side Beehive was where I was at all the time. I was more of a South Side guy than a Oakland guy during my whole Pittsburgh days. Whoa, what do we got here? Hold on. I hope that didn't. Okay, so my screensaver just popped up. But let's see. The O. I miss the O. I used to bring friends to Pittsburgh, and we'd go to the O, and I'd be like, yeah, just get a large order of French fries. We'll be all right. And they're like, that's all you want is French? I'm like, yeah, just get a large fry. And for those of you who don't know, when you order a large French fry at this place called the O, the Original Hot Dog Shop is what the official name of the place was. It was like an entire giant double-sided, not a single fryer basket, but a double fryer basket full of French fries. They went through something like 5,000 pounds of potatoes on a daily basis or something like that at this place. I had a couple of friends that worked there for like a month. And they said the things they saw in the basement were like, get me out of here. They said they saw a rat the size of a dog once down in the basement, and they like shut the door because they didn't want it to get attacked by it. The Beehive, the theater there, when they turned the Beehive in Oakland into the theater where when they had bands and stuff there, I had a friend. There was a band that me and my best friend that lives here in Houston we both like, and it's called Jazz Mandolin Project. You may have heard of them. If you haven't, they're really good. They were doing a show in Pittsburgh, but we didn't know about it. We were hanging out at my friend's house, and someone comes in and goes, hey, you guys going to the show tonight or whatever? They're talking about something. And they're like, oh, yeah, Jazz Mandolin Project is playing down at the Beehive. And me and Paul looked at each other. We're like, get out of here. And we're like, what time is it? And they're like, it was like not even a half hour away. So we jumped up off the couch, ran to the car, drove from Mount Washington all the way out to Oakland, somehow found a parking spot right in front of the Beehive, jumped out of the car, ran in, got our tickets, and we walked into the theater right when the band came on stage. And it was crazy. It was one of the best shows I ever saw, and in a small place like that. And I remember seeing a bunch of other bands play at the Beehive, but that was the best show I ever saw there. And then at some point in the last year, I was on this website where you can get way better than JS. The O French fries were way better than Five Guys, but they're the same, fresh cut fries. I don't know if they were blanched or anything. I don't know if they did anything to them before they fried them, but you would get a gigantic basket, like a double fryer basket full of fries. That was a large, and they just dump it out on a tray, and then you would get a bunch of cheese sauce containers to go with it. But the Beehive, that show at the Beehive, I was on this website where you can download live concerts that people recorded back in the day. And I found that show at the Beehive. And I'm like, oh my God, I was there. So I downloaded it, sent it to my best friend. He was also at the show. I was like, man, that's really cool. I swear I could hear myself yelling in the recording at some point, but that was a nice blast from the past. Running with scissors. I'm an hour away from Pittsburgh in a rural community. I'm not a he, I'm a her. Oh, okay. I just figure running with scissors, that's something a guy would do. So my bad. Can't wait. I'm still doing a bit of planning because I know I can see it. You can't see it all when you go on a road trip, that's for sure. There are so many times I would go on these photography road trips and certain things I would plan out meticulously, and other things I'd just roll the dice and see what happens. And but I've driven the Blue Ridge Parkway from Front Royal, Virginia, all the way down to the Smoky Mountains National Park and through the park and down to the other side and the Tail of the Dragon. And you can tie up a crazy 700-mile drive doing all that. And I've done it so many times that I kind of get bored with it. But at the same time, you could do that drive 100 times and you would not be able to see everything. You would not be able to go to the top of each overlook. You wouldn't be able to hike all the trails. You wouldn't be able to see all the things, stop it all. There's different cities like Roanoke, Virginia, and Asheville, North Carolina, and other places that are close, and just there's all these little things to do off to the side that you're not very far away from, and just waterfalls and all kinds of crazy stuff. And every time I've ever done that trip, the same trip over and over and over again, every time I ever do that trip, it's a completely different experience, and it's a completely different vibe, and I'm not even close. There's no possible way you could do everything that there is to do. And so you just kind of have to, you just got to make it your own. Yeah, as broke ass college kids, we lift off the $3 pizzas, and their fries with gravy were amazing. Yeah, the gravy was good too. The cheese, I always got the cheese, but get the gravy too. We used to live in the north side when I went to the Art Institute, and there was a place on East Ohio Street called Lillin's, and it was a pizza place, and it was like $4 for a large pizza, a big pizza, and 2 liters of pop. $4, $5, $4, something like that. I want to say it was $4. Maybe they raised it to 5. I don't know. Everything was cheap back then. But we got to the point, there were 4 people living in my house, and we got pizza from that place so often that I could call from the payphone. This is how old I am. We could call from the payphone outside of the school, and I could be like, yeah, what's up? And they'd be like, okay, Adam, it'll be ready in 20 minutes. I didn't have to order. I didn't have to tell them my name. I didn't have to order. They just knew they knew the voices of all 4 of us. They'd be like, hey, all you'd have to do, I'd be like, hey, what's up, guys? Oh, hey, Adam, your order will be ready in 20 minutes. And we'd pick it up on the way home, walking home. It was crazy. And there was one time, because we used to have parties all the time. We used to have people at our house all the time. There was one time we took a stack of pizza. We called it the Tower of Power. We took this stack of pizza boxes that was like 12 to 15 feet tall out to the road one day for garbage night. Because so many people were in and out of this house, and we probably didn't take the trash out for 2 or 3 weeks because we were just a bunch of dumb college kids living like slobs. And when we took out all those pizza boxes, the wind came through at night and blew all these pizza boxes all over the road. They were plastered up on the chain link fence by Route 279, and it was crazy. But this stack of pizza boxes, I mean, we took all the pictures that people, it wasn't like everybody had a cell phone back then taking pictures and posting everything on real time to Facebook and whatnot. So you just have to kind of believe what we say when you're Gen X telling stories. But yeah, so you could drink and smoke cigs in the theater at Beehive. Yeah, they had a bar. I remember getting pints from the bar when the shows there were great. That was a great place after they turned it into a concert venue. And they did the same thing with the Rex down in the South Side. I saw Jazz Mandolin Project play down there, and it was whatever the cost was to get in to see the show. It was free, all you can drink beer for the whole night because they didn't have a liquor license, and they didn't, they couldn't sell alcohol, so they just made the price of the tickets cover the cost of alcohol, and you could drink for free the entire night. So that was a rough Sunday morning, that's for sure. Um, let's see. I'm a Clemson fan. Still need to do the Pitt trip. You all usually beat us though, or come close to it. Yeah, Pitt's not known. If you want to see football, you got to go to Penn State, in the middle of the state. Let's see. It's crazy. Oh my goodness. Oh, you saw. Okay, that's crazy. We got so lucky with shows in the 90s. I saw the epic Hurt era Nine Inch Nails show at Three Rivers Stadium and Fish. I saw Nine Inch Nails with Marilyn Manson at the Civic Arena, and I had only been living in Pittsburgh for like a month, and that would have been probably like September or October of 1994. So maybe that's the show you're talking about. I don't know. But that was a crazy show. That was nuts. What was that famous Pitt sandwich shop that dumped all the fries on the? Oh, okay, that's Primanti's. That sucks. Yeah, Jared, when you go to Pittsburgh, all these people are going to tell you to go eat at Primanti's. It's trash. It's like this dumb touristy gimmick thing where they take stale bread and they put some steakums on it, and then they put a bunch of French fries on it, and then a bunch of coleslaw on it, and then they squish it all together, and that's like the famous Pittsburgh sandwich. But nobody likes that crap in Pittsburgh. Like, real people don't like. I mean, some people do, but I hate that. I hate that place. I've never liked going to Primanti's. I'm always like, ugh. But if you do get dragged to Primanti's, the knockwurst is good and the roast beef. Don't get the cheesesteak, get the roast beef or the knockwurst. Those two are good. They're good enough, but I don't like it. It's like soggy French fries and coleslaw on like white bread and meat. And it's just, I don't know, man. I would never choose to go to Primanti's. Pepe's is the cheesesteak place to be. That's the everything about Pepe's is awesome. Get the New Yorker. Write this stuff down. Get the New Yorker if you go to Pepe's. If you are ever back in the area, I got your meal at Sweet Peas in Knoxville. Oh, so you live in Knoxville? Sweet Peas is the bomb. I went there on a whim one day. I don't know how I found the place. I think I just randomly pulled up to this place. I was not looking for anything specific. I was just driving around, and I'm like, yeah, barbecue? All right, sounds good. That place was I had such a good meal that before I left, I got a pound of brisket and a pound of their mac and cheese and a pound of the red beans and rice in the plastic tubs that they give it in. And then I kept that in my cooler. And for the rest of my trip, I would make mountain pies when I was at my campsites and whatnot. I had, the mountain pie makers, the cast iron sandwich maker things. And I would make mountain pies out of those for the rest of the trip. And that pound of that 1 pound of each. So you live north of Knoxville. So I used to go to visit somebody in um, Monterey, near Monterey, in outside of Knoxville, which is, I guess it's like an hour or so north of Nashville. But Monterey is the closest. Bubba Gandy's, I don't know, but everybody, like when I got there, they took me to Bubba Gandy's seafood joint in Monterey, or it's not Monterey where Bubba Gandy's is. It's, I can't remember. I'm like going to sit here and look it up on a map now because I need to know. TN. What is that? And that is Cookeville, Tennessee. Bubba Gandy seafood joint. Oh, so good. So good. But we would show up. We would stop in Knoxville and pick up like 2 pounds of brisket and pulled pork and red beans and rice and mac and cheese and all the fixins. And we would show up bringing that with us when we were, when we walked in the door. We're coming correct and we're setting up a whole barbecue buffet. And then we're eating off of that the whole time we're down there in Tennessee, eating all the leftovers from the barbecue blitz. But this Bubba Gandy place, it's all fresh seafood. You walk in, it's all on ice, and they basically cook it up for you right there when you pick out what you want to eat, and then they do it up for you. And they got different, like I got a po' boy there once, and then scallops. That's what, if I was going to Bubba Gandy's tomorrow, I'd just load up on scallops. But it's not cheap. It's almost like a fast food. It's not a fast food joint, but it's not a nice place. It's like just a sit down and eat kind of place. But the seafood's high end. It's really good. It's like we were told, but you got to go, you got to check this out. And yeah, it was definitely awesome. Let's see. I need to see Fish live on the bucket list. I got to see them in Pittsburgh a couple of times. Good shows. I was actually my stepbrother did the whole following Fish around the country like people used to follow the Grateful Dead around the country. He followed Fish all over the country. And him and his friends made their money by selling grilled cheese sandwiches out in the parking lot. And from what I understand, they made so much money selling grilled cheese out in the parking lot that they funded their whole trip and then some, and they lived pretty well. And they had a really good time. I was kind of thinking about back in right before, let's say 2019, before all this bullshit started up. I was out doing my photography trips and such and trying to think of ways to sell my photography. And so I was thinking of trying to make like a pop-up photography booth that I could just like fit in the back of my Jeep, but just pop it up like with an easy up canopy and a few things and just like make a booth or like a way to sell my photos on the road. And, kind of like you would see at an art festival, but different versions of it so that it could be like just a table that I could just pop up a couple of folding tables and have some stuff laid out. And I was thinking, I was on this one camping trip, or I was on one of those road trips, and Fish was playing at Hampton in Virginia, where they recorded that Hampton Comes Alive CD that everybody, that's one of the ones you would have heard if you're into Fish. And they were doing like a 3-day show there again. And this was like, I want to say it was 2019, somewhere around there. And so I thought about like getting my act together and like trying to sell cool photos, but I don't even know if that's the right crowd. But I wanted to go see Fish for 3 days while I was on this road trip, but then it turned into like you can't do everything you want to do when you're on a road trip, and the weather, and then some other things happened, and it was a good trip, but it kind of sucked at the same time. It was the fall. I was out trying to take pictures of the fall foliage. And so I had all these maps of, they make this interactive map every year of where the leaves have already changed, where the leaves haven't started changing yet, and then like the band where the leaves are in peak season. And so I would go on these road trips and traverse the map back and forth. I would go from where the leaves are gone to where the trees are green, and just bounce back and forth between the band, looking for like where the leaves are at their peak color and trying to find places to take good photos of that. And so I got more obsessed with that. And I was like, yeah, I'm not going to go see fish for 3 days, because I was just having fun driving around taking pictures of leaves and mountains and stuff. And it's just how it went. But so Neil is saying that was the Civic Arena. You're right. The Nine Inch Nails show. I remember from that show that the cops were really nasty, and a riot almost broke out at that show, because I was up in one of my friends got a floor ticket, and the rest of us had to get tickets up in the seats, because somehow he got like the last floor ticket to be out on the floor. And so he was like, I'll hand my ticket up to you when I go in, just be there. And so we're all standing there waiting for him to come running into the arena, and we're waiting there so he can hand his ticket up to us, and then each one of us, we're going to use his ticket to go down on the floor. And he comes running in, and he looks up at us, and he's like, peace out, and he just takes off running, and we're like, what the hell, dude? And so we ended up watching the whole show from the seats. But like some sort of riot broke out, and the cops were just beating the crap out of people all night long, and like just dragging people out in handcuffs and beating the snot out of them. And they were all in their riot gear with their helmets and batons. I've never seen anything like this at a concert before or since. This was craziness. Never seen anything like this. But the cops in Pittsburgh back then were out of control. They were nuts. And like they were hog tying people and carrying them out by the chains and all. Well, anyway, a bunch of people got mad at the cops, and they picked up one of the metal barriers that are supposed to keep the crowd. The same metal barriers that you saw at January 6th that were between the cops and the people. Except at the Civic Arena that night, a bunch of people picked up one of those gates and just plowed into the cops and knocked them all to the ground like it was a bowling alley. And then everybody who was up in the seats, me included, we all just stampeded out onto the floor, just streamed out from the seats out onto the floor. And the cops were below us getting stomped on. But I've looked at it like, you got what you came for, because the way they were acting that night, I'm like, I'm not surprised this all happened. But, and plus I'm like 18 years old. And, but I just worked my way up front. So I got to be up front with my buddy for like the last 2 or 3 songs of the Nine Inch Nails show. But it took all night. I had to watch the entire show. There was like Marilyn Manson and some other thing, and then Nine Inch Nails. And this all happened right towards the end of the show, and I was like, I was right up front. Let's see. What else do we got? Neil said, I agree that the sandwich shop with the fries sucked. Yeah, Primanti's. Just that's the thing. And this Primanti's, they're a chain. And they've started expanding and showing up all over the country now. And they're popping up in all kinds. They're down in Florida now. There was like a famous video during the Trump campaign where they kicked a bunch of Trump supporters out of Primanti's. And I think it happened somewhere in Florida. And it got like all this bad press on the internet. And Primanti's was like, oh, we're sorry. And people were like, no. and it turned into this big thing. And I just thought it was funny because I can't stand Primanti's, and I'm like, I hope people boycott them and put them under, because they have no business being the Pittsburgh sandwich shop. It's famous because it's dumb. It's famous because they did something dumb. Here, let's put a bunch of soggy French fries on some meat, some stale white bread, and some coleslaw, and call it a sandwich. And everybody's like, "Yay! It's a famous sandwich now." But no, man, if you're up in like say you go up to Rochester, New York, Buffalo's famous for the chicken wings, but the Anchor Bar where the chicken wing was invented, they don't have good wings. Like, you can get better wings and there's all kinds of places in Pennsylvania to get better wings than that. Quaker Steak and Lube, write that down. Quaker Steak and Lube is a good place to get wings. If you're an hour north of Pittsburgh, there's a burger place called Blackout Burger. You'd be the best cheeseburger you've ever had. They also have really good wings there. That used to be like 3 miles. That was where I ate Blackout Burger. Me and my son went to Blackout Burger the night I was arrested. My last meal before I was chained and taken away to the joint was a Blackout Burger with my son. We came back from there. I passed out in a chair because I was so tired. Went to bed at like 8 o'clock at night before the sun even went down. Woke up with the FBI driving a tank into my house. But up in Rochester and all the region around Rochester, New York, the famous food up there is called a garbage plate. And so basically a garbage plate is it's like another dumb thing that got famous, but it's actually really good. It's macaroni salad with, you can get it with like cheeseburgers or hot dogs or whatever. It's basically everything you'd have at like a family picnic, all piled on top of each other in a styrofoam container with some special hot sauce on it. And so it'd be like mac salad, a couple of burger patties with like this mustard sauce, whatever, cheese, and some other stuff, hash browns. Instead of fries, it's usually hash browns, and all just mixed together. And it's called a garbage plate because it pretty much looks just like what you would see if you lifted up the lid of the garbage can at the family picnic. And so, I mean, it looks like that's what it looks like, but it's delicious. The best plate, now the original garbage plate came out at a restaurant called Nick Tahoe's. And they have a dirty location, kind of like the O was in Pittsburgh, in downtown Rochester, and it's nasty. Me and all my friends went there one night after a hockey game, and we all got food poisoning. They have a couple of other locations in the suburbs that are better. But every single restaurant within an hour's drive of downtown Rochester, New York, they'll call it a trash plate, a dumpster plate. They cannot call it a garbage plate. They'll get sued. So they'll call it trash plate, dumpster plate. I don't know the other synonyms for trash and garbage, but they'll have something plate. And there's a place in Brockport called Jimmy Z's, and I don't even think I think 2020 put them out of business, but their garbage plate was the best, like way better than any garbage plate I ever had. Way, way, way better. It was the best garbage plate. Anytime I was up in New York visiting people, for whatever reason, I would stop there to go get one of those garbage plates. And then in Rochester, if you ever make it to Rochester, New York, Dinosaur Barbecue, downtown Rochester, that's a good spot too. That's probably the spot to get your food. Like that's a place you wouldn't want to miss. That's a place where if you're talking to somebody about Rochester, New York, oh, did you try Dinosaur Barbecue? But yeah, if you're in that region, I don't think the garbage plate extends all the way out to Buffalo, but somewhere about halfway between Rochester and Buffalo is the radius of where you can get a garbage plate near Rochester, New York. So that's where I grew up in that region, about halfway between, a little bit closer to Rochester than Buffalo, but that's where I grew up. That's the area I grew up in. Niagara Falls, Buffalo, Rochester. Niagara Falls is a cool place to check out, especially the Canadian side. If you can swing up that way, you got to have a whole day for that. There's so much there. Just to see everything the falls has to offer that's a whole day. And that's just getting across the border, doing everything there is on the Canada side. The America side sucks. There's some nice views and you can get up close to one of the waterfalls and whatnot, but you're on the American side, there's nothing to do, and you're looking across the river at all the flashing lights, and it's basically like Disney World over there on the Canadian side. I'll never be able to go again. I'll anytime I ever want to go to Niagara Falls for the rest of my life, I'm going to have to be the guy on the American side looking across the river going, damn, that would be nice if I could just go over there for a day. But they won't ever let me into Canada again. They won't let anybody in with a felony. One of my best friends back in the day, him and his wife went to Niagara Falls to, I'm going to go to Niagara, Toronto, Ottawa, Montreal, and you're going to see a bunch of cool stuff. So one of my friends went up to Niagara Falls with his wife, and they had this whole like romantic, long weekend booked. And it's like a 4-hour drive from Pittsburgh to the border. And they get there and they wouldn't let my friend cross the border. He's like 30 years old, 30 something years old at this point. They wouldn't let him into Canada because when he was 17 years old, he beat the crap out of his stepdad and he got in trouble for it. But it was because his stepdad beat the crap out of his mom. And so he was like standing up for his mom, and he stopped his stepdad from beating the crap out of his mom. But he ended up getting a misdemeanor, or he ended up getting in trouble for it. But he was 17 years old. And because of that, they won't let him into Canada. I've got so many, and other people have told me stories about they got a bad speeding ticket. Canada won't let them cross the border. Canada, they're a bunch of dicks when it comes to letting you in to the country. But on the flip side, the last time I went to Canada was a long time ago. It was Niagara Falls. And they were right on the cusp of making you have a passport, but they weren't there yet. Because back in the day, all you needed was a driver's license. You could go to Canada anytime you want. And you just show them your driver's license, and that was good enough. And then they started, after 9/11 and all that, they started doing that. They slowly started to require a passport, but there was a period of time where you could go across the border if you had your driver's license and a birth certificate. And so I forgot my birth certificate, but we wanted to go to Niagara Falls. I was with my son's mom. And so I'm like, here's what we're going to do. We're going to park on the America side, and we're just going to walk across the bridge. I'll take my chances, whatever. We're going to do this. And so the reason I parked on the American side away from the Border Patrol was because if I was going to have any problems, it's going to be with the Americans coming back. And they are known to be complete assholes, and they can strip your car apart for no reason. They'll pull you over in a parking lot somewhere, and they'll come in with like air ratchets and stuff, and they'll strip your car down to like they'll strip your car apart and leave it in pieces in the parking lot, and you got to pick up all the pieces of your car and try to put it back together again. And so I'm like, they would totally do that to me if I do this. So I'm going to head them off at the pass. We'll just walk across the bridge, the Rainbow Bridge. It's right there. We'll be right in it. And so we walked across the bridge. We go into Canada. They're like, they look at my driver's license. They're like, you got a birth certificate? I'm like, no, sorry. I didn't know I needed one. They're like, yeah, we started doing it. They're like, whatever. Come on in. Have a good time. They didn't care. They didn't care at all. We come back to the American side, and I'm telling my son's mom, I'm like, let me do the talking here. We're just going to play dumb. Watch this. So we come back in. We go into the border patrol station, and the guy's like, where's your identification? I give him my driver's license. They're like, well, where's your proof of citizenship? Don't you have a passport? And I'm like, no. And they're like, you need at least a birth certificate. What's going on? And I'm like, I go to Canada all the time. I've never had to do that. What's going on? They're like, I even played dumber than that at first. And they're like, don't you, the guy behind the border patrol guy said something along the lines of, don't you know that's a whole other country over there? And I'm like, no. I'm like, I've never had to do anything but show my driver's license to go over there before. And I just played totally dumb. And they asked me a bunch of questions. Where were you born? When were you born? Blah, 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 and all this and that. And I was born right down the road. So it wasn't like I wasn't even born that far away from Niagara Falls. And so they just got like sick and tired of dealing with me. And they're like, get the hell out of here. They just shoved us out the door and told us to get out of here and go on your merry way. And that was the last time I went to Canada. That was a while ago. I got nice pictures of the falls, and that's it. That's going to be all I get. Those are my last photographs of Niagara Falls from the Canada side, because they'll never let me into Canada again. I won't even be able to drive to Alaska ever, because I'll get to the Canada border and they won't even let me go from the United States border to the other United States border. The only way I could go to Alaska now would be to fly or take a boat. Not that I'm planning on going to Alaska anytime soon, but these are just things that Canada, I've got a client who said because of something he did when he was like 16 years old, they won't let him into Canada. And he knows people, and he knows influential people and lawyers and all kinds of things, people that can help with that kind of stuff, grease the skids. And he still can't go to Canada because they won't let him cross the border because of some dumb thing that he did when he was a kid. I don't know. I mean, that's why I was like, I don't care anymore. I mean, because, yeah, people are like, oh, we don't want Canada to be part of the United States because they're all liberals. But I'm thinking from the perspective of, well, if Canada becomes part of the United States, I can go to Canada now. Boom. So I'm pretty sure I've been told that I can go to Mexico without much problem at all. Like, they don't care about they're not going to do a background check on me to go to Mexico. They're just, come on in, like they want the gringo's dollar down there. But Canada, they're a totally different thing. Now, there are places I could just waltz right into Canada without ever having to check in. I can just cross the border somewhere. They don't have a wall or nothing. And most of the places there's a lot of places out west you can just drive in or you can walk across a field or walk across a hiking trail. The Pacific Crest Trail hiking trail goes into Canada. And it's not like there's a border patrol guarding the checkpoint when you cross the border. But that would be cool in my book, just to be able to go to Canada again and skip that whole nonsense. But yeah, we'll see what happens. I don't think Canada wants to be part of the United States, and I don't blame them. But let's see. I don't know what else is going on. We still got like half an hour left to hang out. I'm definitely getting hungry. I did 16 miles on the bike today. It was nice and sunny. I'm watching. So I can tell what you guys feel like when you're watching the videos if I post them a week after I record them, because I'm watching the Tour de France. I got a free subscription to the Peacock app, the NBC app, and the streaming service, and that's where they're doing all the live coverage of the Tour de France. And so this, and for those who don't know, it's 23 days long. It started last Saturday, and it goes through July 27th, and they get 2 days off. And they're basically riding their bicycles 120 miles a day at an average speed of 30 miles an hour. It's a total of 2,720 miles for the month of July. And so I'm watching the whole race, but I'm watching the replay, because if you want to watch it live, you got to get up at like 5 in the morning, and the race won't end each day until about 11 in the morning. And I don't got that. That doesn't compete. That doesn't work for me. So when I'm like getting ready, like to chill out for the night and just go, get ready for bed, that's what I've been putting on at night. But it's 5 hours long each stage. And so currently I'm still watching stage 4, but today was stage 6. And so now I'm like 2 stages behind, and I'm still not even done with stage 4. And so I might not know who wins the Tour de France until a week after the race. So, but honestly, I haven't watched that race for a long time, not at that level. It used to be called the Tour de Lance, according to JS. Back when Lance Armstrong was juicing his way to the top 7 years in a row, we were watching that, all of us, because I'm the cycling guy, so I'm like the commentator for all of our friends, but we're sitting around because nobody else understands what's going on. We're just watching the scene. The scenery is awesome. And like, even if you're not into bike racing, it's a trip to watch, because you're actually the thing I like the most about it myself is you get to see, this is France. Like, this is what France actually looks like if you're driving around, and they're going to every little nook and cranny in all these cities and towns, and you get to see a lot of stuff. And they're riding anywhere from 100 to 130 miles a day, except for the time trials when they race against the clock individually. And those, I think, typically are 60 miles, give or take. I don't know. They had a time. The stage 5 was a time trial, I believe, and I don't know. I wanted to say it was like 60 miles. That's already come and gone. I haven't seen it yet, though. So, but I'm trying not to watch the news feeds and stuff. So I'm just watching it like it's a Netflix show, and just if I get to the end of it and it's and it ended a week ago, I don't care. That don't matter to me. It's not that important that I know the day of. I'm not chomping at the bit like that. But when Lance was racing, we would watch every night, me and the girlfriend, or me and whoever. And so everybody was into that back when Lance Armstrong was doing that. Jared Smith was the dude who won after Lance, that was part of his team, the last American to win. I think he was busted for doping as well. I can't remember his name. His name was Floyd Landis. And yeah, so how the whole doping thing got busted wide open was the year after Lance won 7 in a row. This dude, Floyd Landis, now is America's best hope, used to be Lance's teammate, had a good chance. and they were in the mountains, the Alps or the Pyrenees. I don't remember which mountain range, but that's pretty much where the race gets won. The time trials, but most of the Tour de France, it's kind of boring until they go to the mountains in terms of like who's going to win, because it's the mountain climbs that separate everybody on the clock. And so Floyd Landis was in the lead. He was wearing the yellow jersey on this one mountain stage, and he hit the wall, and he just completely fell apart on this mountain climb, and he lost 12 minutes to something. I think it was 12 minutes. And now he not only lost the yellow jersey, but now he's 12 minutes behind the leader because of one bad day. And he's not even in the top 10 anymore. He's like in 13th place or something like that, right? So the very next day is another mountain stage. Very next day. And it's towards the end of the Tour de France. And the very next day, everybody's like, yeah, Floyd Landis, he's done. See ya. And we just wrote him off. Very next day, he jumps on his bike and he gets back the 13 minutes that he lost, and he ends up like a minute or two ahead of everybody. It was like he juiced up and he hit a motor somewhere in his bike, like had somebody pull him up the mountain with a car with a rope attached to the bumper. I don't know. I mean, it was like this guy just, what? Like completely unheard of for somebody to come back from 13 minutes behind and in like 13th place and all of a sudden get all of that back and then beat everybody by a couple more minutes. And so everybody's like, yo, what was that? And so from there, he was the winner. He rode into Paris with a bottle of champagne and passing it around to his teammates, because that's what they do on the last day. And so he won, but everybody was like, dude, what happened here? And it was like maybe 2 days after the Tour de France, they announced they're taking away his trophy. He didn't win. He tested positive for this, that, and the other thing. And so the whole country of America is throwing him under the bus and yelling and screaming at him and calling him a cheat and this and that. And so Floyd Landis jumps up and he's like, I'm just doing it because Lance made me. Lance Armstrong made me do it. And so now Lance Armstrong, now he had already been accused of it, and he had been accused of it for years and years. And people just assumed he did. But the UCI, which is the governing body of cycling, they just kind of like look the other way, because during the 7 years that Lance Armstrong won the Tour de France, they come to the conclusion that you would have to get like the 130th place rider out of 180 or so before you might find somebody who wasn't juiced up and cheating. Every single racer in the race was doing the dope and all the stuff. They were all cheating. So it turned out, to be fair, the top 50 juiced as well. It was the top 100 or more. They were all doing it. So it ended up being who could cheat the best. And so that's why I don't care. I'm like, people say cheaters never win. Lance Armstrong, he's still living in a mansion by a lake somewhere in Austin, and he's still got millions of dollars in the bank. And now he's doing commentary for the Tour de France. He's getting paid by NBC now to do commentary for the bike race. He's on his comeback tour now. He had to do the whole Hollywood timeout thing. He had to go, bad boy. He got put in timeout for 10 years or whatever it's been. Now they're letting him back in the club, and you can come be a commentator for NBC. I know your millions of dollars might be running low. I mean, we'll give you a bump to your bank account or whatever. And but Floyd Landis was the one that the snowball started to go downhill, because he was getting thrown under the bus hard for cheating in the Tour de France. And he's like, what about Lance Armstrong? And he wouldn't shut up. And the reason that they went after Lance Armstrong so hard is because he's a dick. He's an asshole. He's a complete arrogant asshole. He treats everybody like garbage, and he was threatening people. He was threatening people legally. He threatened Greg LeMond, like the only American now. Greg LeMond is the only American to quote unquote have won the Tour de France. Who knows if he cheated or not? But I'll talk about that in a second. Lance Armstrong and Greg LeMond started fighting with each other, and Lance was threatening to sue him and take legal action against him and all this and that. And he was just making all this noise, and he wouldn't shut his mouth. And so it was kind of like, oh, if that's how you're going to be, well, guess what? Here's what's going to happen now, dog. We're going to drag you into the mud, and we're going to put this all on you. And you'll be the one who loses your yellow jerseys and your trophies and all that. But for 5 years before Lance Armstrong won the Tour de France, a guy from Spain, his name was Miguel Indurain, he won the Tour de France 5 years in a row. Juicing. They don't ever talk about him because he won his 5 Tour de France. He took his money. He walked away. He kept his head down. He shut his mouth. He acted humble. And they're like, okay, go off into the sunset. You're a legend. Bye-bye. And if Lance had just kept his mouth shut and not been such an asshole and an arrogant showboater, he'd probably still be on the record books as having won those races. And they may have, the juicing stuff may have been brought to the surface, but they probably wouldn't have done what they did to him. But it was him. He did it to himself. And by being such a jerk. And so with Greg LeMond won the Tour de France, I think it was 3 times, and he was slated to, this was right when all the juicing started, right? So he was coming out, he was getting too old to ride the Tour de France, right when Lance Armstrong was in his first Tour de France. Lance Armstrong showed up at the Tour de France for the first time. He won one stage race, and that was it. He didn't really finish that high. He wasn't he was just one of those, oh, here's the guy from America, check him out, but he had no chance of winning. And Greg LeMond, he won the Tour de France, and so the following year he comes back, and he's slated to have a good chance of winning again. And within a few days of the Tour de France starting, he couldn't keep up with the slowest riders in the Tour. The guy who just won the Tour de France last year comes back, and he can't keep up with anybody. He got dropped off the back of the race, and he fell so far behind that he was basically at the cutoff point where at the end of the day, if you when the first rider crosses the line of a stage, you have a certain amount of time to get your ass across that finish line or you're done. They kick you out of the race. And Greg LeMond, there's a car that follows the race a certain distance behind the race. And if you fall behind that car, you're out. You're done. Your Tour de France is over. And so the year after Greg LeMond won, he comes back and he's fallen behind. He's about to fall behind the sweeper car and get kicked out of the race because he can't keep up with the slowest guy in the Tour. And people are like, what? And well, everybody back then, I remember, everybody was calling him a pussy. And they're like, oh, he's all washed up. He's a pussy, blah, blah, blah. Come on, Greg, you pansy. What the hell's your problem? Blah. You're weak. And they were just throwing him under the bus. But turns out he showed up to the Tour de France that year. He probably hadn't juiced up like everybody else. And all of a sudden, he can't keep up with the slow guys. Guys that he used to just stomp all over the year before are crushing him. And he's like, what the hell's going on? He talks about it. He's done a lot of interviews about this where he just talks about it was so unreal that he was in the top shape. He was in some of the best shape of his life. he was ready for the tour. It was all, this, that, and the other thing. And he shows up, and on the first day, he can't even keep up with the pack, the peloton, which is the peloton is when it's the main group of riders, and there could be like 100 on a flat stage or on a flat race where there's no hills to separate people out. You'll see a group of like 100 riders all riding together in a group. And they're moving along at like 30, 35 miles an hour. But if you're in the middle of that group, you don't really have to work that hard because the people in front of you are blocking all the wind. And so the reason why they ride so close together is the wind break. And so if you're riding like a few inches behind somebody's back wheel, the wind resistance is gone. You can just coast. I mean, I used to do road races when I was in high school, and you go out, you get in these tight groups like that with 20 or 30 people. And if you're in the middle of that group, you're just like, you're good. You pick a big gear and just kind of cruise, and you're not putting a lot of energy in it until you take your turn up front. And let's say you get in a group of like 5 or 6 riders, and you're riding single file, boom, 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 boom. The guy up front's doing all the work, but you take turns. Guy up front will do like 20 revolutions of pedal strokes, go off to the side, slide back to the back of the line, and everybody just kind of takes a turn up front. And so that's why, like, in these cycle races, you'll normally see people that break away from the main group. The main group will just let them go. And they'll just be like, yeah, go ahead, go have your fun. And they'll get like this year, they're only letting the breakaways get like 2 to 3 minutes ahead. It's very scientific now. But back in Lance's day, there would be breakaways that would get 10 to 12 minutes ahead of the peloton. But they know as soon as they decide to actually race, a group of riders can go so much faster than an individual rider because of the wind resistance and all of that, and the energy conservation, that you basically have no chance. But on the flip side, if you fall behind that main group of riders, you're in a world of hurt, because now you've got to catch up to them. And you might, if you're by yourself and you get dropped like that, you fall off the back of the group and they're a minute ahead of you. You have to put everything you have into trying to catch up to that group. So like for me in high school, I might get dropped from the group because we're going up a steep hill and it all separates out and I fall behind. I was never a good climber. And so my strength was always downhill, and because I was just risky and didn't care. I wasn't afraid of anything. So I'd just go as fast as I possibly can down hills and catch people and pass them and be like the opposite of everybody else. The strongest riders are always the climbers. But then I would lose the group and I could see them down the road. I could see them. I'm like, it would take everything you have to catch back up to that group. While the people in the group, they're barely lifting their heart rate, because they're, and then with the team strategies, the riders that are supposed to win the race have a team around them. And so the team will be up in front of them, protecting them from the wind, so that the person who they're trying to help win the race doesn't have to work that hard when it's, when they're on the flat stages and it's windy. And then it's up to that person to climb, when they get to the mountains, and the time trial is an individual ride. So there's no team help there. But it's a crazy sport. I love it. I love riding my bike to and from the bakery. I just don't like being exhausted certain days of the week because of it, having to recover from it. But when I'm out on my bike, I love it. Let's see. JS says, I remember Lance faking a struggle on the hills to bait the enemy to attack. He would then turn on the afterburners. And they do it all the time. They play their games all the time on hill climbs, other things. In the tour this year, in the stages I've seen, Okay, so the craziest thing so far, two things. The guy who was in the yellow jersey on the first day of the race was a sprinter. So they have different. So I'm just going to, like, for people who don't know, the yellow jersey is the person in first place, and it's a cumulative time effect. So it's the cumulative time for each day. So, like, you could be 3 minutes behind the leader on day 5 and then gain 3 minutes on the leader on day 6. And then you're now in the lead of the total overall lead. The yellow jersey is the overall leader. The green jersey is for sprinters, and so there's people that can ride really fast on flat land. They can get up to like 50 miles an hour riding their bike on a flat piece of land, on a flat road. And these guys crush. The people that win the Tour de France usually can't sprint like that. And so there's a lot of famous cyclists who sprint and who can win races all day that are flat and that finish in a big bunch group of riders at the finish line where there's like 50 people fighting each other to get across the line first. It's those sprinters. It's those guys that can kick it up to like 45, 50 miles an hour on a flat road. Those are the ones that win those races. And so there's a contest in the Tour de France. If you're the best sprinter, you get a green jersey. And then there's another contest for the best hill climber. So the overall winner might take it easy on some of the mountains. You're not going to go blasting up every single mountain because the strategy is to win the whole race. And you don't want to burn yourself out halfway through the race by going up every single mountain balls to the wall. And so there's another contest for the people that do want to fight for every mountaintop. And it's called the polka dot jersey, and it's the king of the mountains. And so the guy who got the yellow jersey on the first day of the tour, on the second day of the tour, he ended up in another sprint finish. He lost the yellow jersey to another dude on his team, but he got the green jersey, so he's the best sprinter. So on day 3, he's wearing the green jersey, and one of his teammates is now wearing the yellow jersey. And the guy in the green jersey is flying down the road, and they're coming up on sprint points. They're coming up on one of the sprint where you get points for that green jersey, and a couple of dudes start elbowing each other, and they start, jamming into each other, trying to knock each other around a little bit. And the one dude loses control of his bike, slides into the guy with the green jersey, takes out his front wheel. The guy with the green jersey, bam, out onto the pavement, and snapped his collarbone in half and broke 2 ribs. And he's out of the race. So he's the leader of the Tour de France on day 1 with the yellow jersey. Number 2, day 2, he's with the green jersey, and he has a good chance of, if he can keep up, that's a long 3 weeks. So, and this is like the 3rd day. But on the 3rd day, he's riding in the green jersey, and then he's done. He's in the hospital that night having surgery on his broken collarbone and 2 broken ribs. And then they gave penalties to the guys that were elbowing each other and caused the crash. And then at the end of the same stage, there was another big pile up at the end of the day because some other dudes were elbowing and shoving each other around and trying to push each other out of the way, and caused another pile up, and a bunch of people got broken up. But they didn't fall out of the race, but 2 other riders got penalties for it. And so they're doing this new thing this year where they're handing out yellow cards like a soccer match. And this is I guess this is the first year they're doing it. So if you get 2 yellow cards, you're out. You're ejected from the race, and you're done. And you got to pay fines and all kinds of stuff. And so it's just like they're trying to turn it into soccer, I guess. But it's a dirty game. Shell says it's very dangerous. The recovery after the tour must suck. I can't imagine. I don't even think. The crazy thing is that when they have 2 rest days. I think their first rest day is Tuesday. So they're riding 130 miles, 120, 110, 120, 160 time trial, boom, boom, boom. And then Tuesday they get a day off. They can't take a day off. They have to get on their bikes and go for a ride. So the whole team will go out and go on they might go on a 50 to 100-mile ride on the off day. Because if they don't, and they wake up the day after the rest day, if they actually rested, they won't even be able to walk. They won't even be able to stand up on their own 2 feet and get on their bike and actually do this crap again. So even on the rest day, they don't get to rest. They have to go out and ride their bike, and they don't have to ride hard. They're out just for it's kind of like there's days I ride to the bakery and I'm like balls to the wall, and I'll get a really good time, and Strava will tell me, oh, wow, you did really good. You broke all your record times and this and that. And I'll be covered in sweat, and it'll be like that. And then there's other days where I can barely turn the pedals, and I'm turning the pedals as light as I can to keep forward movement, but I'll take an extra half hour to get home, and I'll have and Strava will be like, what's going on, Adam? It looks like you just decided looks like this must be your recovery ride. And my heart rate won't even go past, my heart rate will just be slightly above what it would be walking from the recliner to the fridge and back. The whole bike ride my heart rate won't go above that. But on the other days, I was feeling horrible on Monday until I actually got on my bike and rode. But you never know when you're going to feel good and when you're not, at least with what I'm doing. But no, if you ride you ride almost 3,000 miles in a month at top form, you won't be able to walk for a month. These people come home from the Tour de France. Once you're off that bike for 2 days and you wake up on that 3rd day, you're probably not even able to get out of bed. You're probably having a hard time just walking to go to the bathroom for a month. I remember I did a bicycle race from Pittsburgh to Philadelphia, 400 miles in 3 days. And I took a Greyhound bus home. And I fell asleep on the Greyhound bus to where I was sleeping on someone's shoulder like this. And they kept waking me up, and I'd be like, oh, sorry, man. Sorry, dude. Sorry. Right back at it. And the whole way back to Pittsburgh. And when I went to get off the bus, I had a friend pick me up at the Greyhound station. And when I go to get off the bus, I couldn't walk. I was holding on to the seats. I couldn't walk. I was limping off of that bus and taking that last step onto the pavement, pulling the box out that had my bike in it from under the bus, and trying to get it all up into my friend's truck and all of that. Oh, I've never felt more pain. And it was because I had just put together this Red Rocket bicycle that I talk about. And I took it on a 3-mile ride around the block just to make sure everything worked. And then I'm like, okay, race next weekend. And I never took it out on an actual ride or a race. And so nothing was adjusted properly. My seat height wasn't right. All that, it fits me perfect now. But it took time to figure out. I swapped out seats. I've changed things around. I've, adjusted the height multiple times, handlebars, seat. I've changed the handlebars more than once. All that stuff to get it so where I'm comfortable and I can sit on that bike. I've gone on an 800-mile ride with that bike and never got hurt and never came home sore. But that 400-mile race killed me. My knees, I blew out my knees. I couldn't walk right for over a month. But that's what the Tour de France riders feel like, even worse than that. They're getting they got professional massage therapists. They get off of that bicycle and they're going straight to they're going straight to get their happy ending for the day, if you will. It's like they're getting a massage right after the race, probably on the back of the race truck with the professional massage therapists, and they're getting probably the Theragun out and all of that stuff, and they're getting it all, and they're getting, they're eating probably 10 pounds of spaghetti for dinner and who knows what else, but they're just you can eat whatever you want, but I mean, their diet is pretty controlled by the team, to keep them from being stupid. But yeah, I mean, when I went on an 800-mile bike ride, it was like, I would just eat whatever I want. And I would come back weighing 10, 15 pounds less than I left. If I did that if I rode 100 miles a day, I would lose 20 pounds in like a week. Do ice baths help? I don't really do the ice bath thing, but yes, that's why the football players do it after they get beat up. The biggest reason why you get all sore after working out is because of the inflammation of you're basically creating microscopic tears in your muscle as you work out really hard. And then there's acid that builds up in there, and then it's the inflammation. And so that's why when you take an ice bath after the fact, it's, you're calming down your body, the swelling, the inflammation. That's what the ice bath is for, to stop that. What I would do for the long rides, now I would do these long, like the 800-mile ride was more like go at my own pace. It wasn't a race. I could do what I want. Take a break when I want, stop and eat when I want, whatever. So my daily progression would be about 10 miles an hour, but that includes stopping for breaks, stopping for meals, stopping for whatever else, and whatever. So whether I'm moving along at 15, 20 miles an hour when I'm on the bike, the average progression, I could estimate I'm going to be from here to this other city based on just saying 10 miles an hour. It's going to 100 miles. That's 10 hours. Okay, I'll be there by this time. And it generally works out like that. But then you ride 100. My longest one-day bicycle ride was 174 miles. And that was on the bike trail from Pittsburgh to Washington, D.C. So it's fairly flat. And it's crushed limestone all the way to Cumberland, Maryland. And I went about 5 miles south of Cumberland, Maryland, which ended up being 174 miles that day. And so the next day, you wake up after the next day, you're not going to want to get up. You're not going to want to move. Like, I could barely stand on my feet. So what I would do is, as soon as you wake up, have it ready the night before. Have like a water bottle and a bunch of Advil, like more than you would normally take. Like, I don't know, at least 4 regular size Advils. So is that, if they're 200 milligram, then I guess that would be 800. I don't know the measurement, but I would just take like anywhere from 4 to 6 Advil and just chug it. Boom, Advil, water, as soon as you wake up, and drink the whole water bottle. And then I would eat a Cliff Bar, or I'd have something for breakfast on the bike. And I'm not cooking when I'm going on a ride like that. I'm just eating like Cliff Bars. And usually on those kind of trips, I would stop at a 7-Eleven or some sort of grocery store or something and just pick up a bunch of snacks and stuff to take back to a campsite, and then stop whenever I set up a place to sleep, snack and do whatever, and then whatever's left over, have that in the morning. And then I'd be like, wherever it makes sense to eat. I would eat 2 meals a day. So when I wake up in the morning, I'm on my way to try and like where's the next town I can get some food, good meal to sit down and eat. And then later in the evening, as it's getting to be like, 6, 7, 8 o'clock, somewhere in there, I'm looking for another big old meal to sit down and eat. And, but I would take the Advil with the water, and then I'd sit and eat, get my bicycle ready, pack down whatever I had for camp and whatever. And within a half hour or so, you feel it. It's like, especially in a situation like that. And by the time I'm ready to get on the bike and start riding, I can actually walk. I feel like it does the ibuprofen was a miracle. And ibuprofen usually doesn't do that much for me. But in that situation, it was a big, big difference. And then you get on the bicycle and you're going to be a little bit sore. And then within like 15, 20 minutes or so of pedaling, you're like, you don't even feel like anything's wrong. You're back to normal again. And so I would do that every morning for a ride like that. Just kind of have a ritual. But anyway, now it's like 8 o'clock. And I said I would do a 2-hour. I'll do this every Thursday for 2 hours, unless I'm, unless something comes up or I can't for whatever reason. But I'll just I'm glad y'all showed up. I know I didn't give people like warning that I think the video that I posted today was the first video that I talked about doing it, but I recorded that last week. And so, but I'll just make this a regular thing. Thursday night works good for me. I don't got to do anything. I don't got to leave the house tomorrow. And I'm feeling better on Thursdays usually than like Tuesdays out of the question, because that's like 13 hours of working at a bakery and riding a bicycle. So I feel like garbage on Tuesdays. So yeah, thanks for coming out. And it's nice to get to talk to some of you all and, interact with you like that. It's fun. So yeah, and you all, I'll do this again. This will be cool. I'm not going to run ads on the live stream. I don't know if you saw any. I hope you didn't, because I hate when I'm on a live stream and somebody's running ads, because then YouTube will shove the ad at you. And then when you hit the skip button or the ad finishes playing, you missed a whole part of the live stream. So whatever somebody was talking about, then you disappear for 30 seconds. Then you come back and you're like, what's going on? Or like maybe you heard somebody was talking about something you wanted to hear, and all of a sudden you missed it because an ad was in your face. And so on my web browser, I have ad blockers turned on. So if I'm watching a live stream there, I never see them. But if I'm on my phone watching on the mobile app, I'm like, oh crap, I forgot. And the ads will show up on certain live streams. And I'll probably if I can turn on the ads for if somebody wants to watch a replay, that's fine, because I think the video will just pick up where it left off when the ad's done. But for the live chat, I won't do it, because if I could set it so that you see an ad when you show up to the chat and then you get to watch the whole chat, the live feed, then that's cool with me. But YouTube doesn't allow me to do that. They're like, you either turn them on or you turn them off. And if you turn them on, we're just going to run ads throughout the whole video. So, but anyway, yeah, no ads. I don't need that. This is just for fun and get to know some of you people. And you can ask. It kind of makes up for the whole like putting up a video a week after I record it routine that I've been into. And so, we can like talk back and forth. You can come up with questions. If you want to hear prison stories or whatever the hell it is that you want to hear, holler at your boy. But with that, I think I got to go get some food and sit down and watch a bunch of people ride bikes. So I'll talk to y'all later. Peace out.